Good evening and welcome to BATV News. I'm Andrew Laidley. According to two past presidents of the Incorporated Master Builders Association of Jamaica, IMAJ, the country is losing skilled laborers and businesses are shutting down. They say that's the result of a government bringing in foreign competitors who end up getting the lion's share of the construction work in addition to preferential treatment. More in this report. Incorporated Master Builders Association of Jamaica IMAJ past President Donald Mullins says if things continue the way they are now, Jamaica will soon start to feel the effect of a skilled labor shortage in the construction sector.
These firms come to Jamaica with a significant advantage. They come in with duty-free equipment. They do not adhere to our labor laws, so our laborers are paid way below the market. In fact, for the most part, 40% below the market. This discourages a lot of people from getting in the construction business, and in a lot of cases, a lot of people now, a lot of our skilled workers are leaving the industry.
In addition to that, Mr. Mullins says some construction businesses have already shut their doors and more shutdowns could be on the horizon.
A couple of these firms, large firms, are forced to close their doors. I speak of Caribbean Construction, I speak of Tankwell, I speak of some companies that basically idle. Firms like Astron Building System that has served us so well over time are operating at perhaps as low as 10% of their capacity. These are issues that we want dealt with. We also want, if we must bring these guys, which frankly we have no main problem with competition, but they must operate on a level playing field.
Meanwhile, according to IMAJ immediate past President Carvel Stewart, overseas firms are monopolizing the private sector. He argues that Jamaican construction firms cannot compete with these foreign players if they continue to receive preferential treatment from the government.
But what has resulted now, and what we are concerned with most, is that they have allowed them to enter the private sector, which is the area that we had hoped that we would retain, in allowing them to enter the private sector with the same terms and conditions that government gave them. There's no way our construction industry can compete.
The World Bank says Jamaica is poised to generate increased economic growth of 2% and more per annum by the 2018-2019 fiscal year. The bank's lead economist, Philip Sculler, says this projection is based on the government's prudent fiscal stance and the resulting stable inflation rate. The bank says it also took into consideration improvement in the country's current account balance and heightened business confidence, which is expected to generate significant new investments. Meanwhile, Mr. Sculler praised the government for maintaining the fiscal stance that he said continues to generate steady improvements in Jamaica's economy. Following protracted periods of volatility, he noted that apart from a couple of bad quarters in 2014, there have been notable growth and improvement in key areas, such as the gross domestic product, GDP, and employment. The World Bank representative was speaking via video link from the bank's headquarters in Washington, D.C. during a recent media briefing in Kingston. In the meantime, the Bank of Jamaica BOJ and the Planning Institute of Jamaica PIOJ report that the GDP outturn for the March 2017 quarter ranged between 0 and 1%. The forecast for the 2017-2018 fiscal year is expected to be between 1.5 and 2.5%. In relation to employment, the Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin reported that there was a 0.6 reduction in the unemployment rate, which fell to 12.7%. The Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, says the European Union EU-funded Farmer Field School FFS program is helping to boost the yield of the country's farmers by scaling up best practices in agricultural production, dubbed the School Without Walls. The initiative, which is being implemented by RADA, engages farmers in areas such as crop management and integrated pest control. It's a part of the European Union Caribbean Agriculture and Fisheries Program. Speaking in an interview with JIS News, Acting Principal Director for Technical Services at RADA, Marina Young, said the Farmer Field School program, introduced over 6 years ago, assists farmers to learn within their own environment. She noted that the learning by doing method employed in the training serves to validate the information that the facilitators are teaching. Mrs. Young said the impact of the initiative to the country and the economy is one of the program's most rewarding outcomes. She said as a result of the program, productivity is more than 2 times higher than average. The managing directors of Creative Media and Events, CME, and the publishers of Wealth magazine have launched their magazine venture. The magazine, called Wealth MSME Alliance, was launched yesterday. Annika Robinson has the details.
Creative Media and Events CME Managing Director Leighton Davis says after doing their own research, he and business partner Garth Walker decided that publishing another hard copy magazine was not a bad investment.
Well, when we started Wealth magazine, many persons tried to discourage myself and Garth from going into print, saying that we should be online. But if you check the surveys and you look at it, even overseas, persons still like to read, you know, and of course people consume content in different ways. So of course some people like to go online, some people on their iPads, you know, etc. But ultimately there's some people who still like to feel something in their hand.
The co-publisher says while there's still the added pressure of having to compete with American magazines on shelves, that wasn't enough to deter him from embarking on the venture.
When it's good quality, of course the American magazines rolled off the shelf here in Jamaica. You know, they say that we have a problem in terms of reading, but we don't really buy into that. It's a niche market, but it is something that is needed. So we believe in print, and of course that's why we keep doing what we're doing.
In the meantime, Mr. Davis says Wealth magazine is also available in a digital form online, accessed mostly by people living in the diaspora.
Wealth magazine is actually online. We are actually located on a platform called ISO, and so it's free. So once if you want the magazine, you can buy it. If you're not on a database where you receive it free, but yes, you can go online. If you Google Wealth magazine, you'll find that the platform comes up and all the issues are there for you to read. So for persons who are in the diaspora, that's where they get their fill of that content.
For BATV News, I'm Annika Robinson.
Still to come, castor oil may be your fuel of choice soon. More on that when we return. Welcome back. The possibility of adding another natural resource for fuel could be a reality soon, as the Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica, PCJ, signed a deal with the University of Technology, UTech, to refine a castor fuel formula. Energy Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley says it's a big leap in the island's energy ambitions, especially in helping to achieve the 1330 renewable energy target. Amita Prasad Webb has more.
Minister Wheatley says castor oil has always had the potential to be a significant contributor in reducing the island's carbon footprint.
It is a very excellent initiative to partner with an academic institution doing research work, and the PCJ being the government that deals with or manage our energy sector in terms of implementation of our energy efficiency and conservation program. And so it is really an excellent partnership. The castor oil, as you know, is known for its potential of generating energy.
He says the agreement is an indication that Jamaica is actively seeking new ways through innovation and technology to find alternative forms of energy.
It is that level of collaboration that we want to encourage among our local scientists to ensure that we continue to innovate rather than just become or continue to be consumers of technology. And I must congratulate UTech on this particular initiative for having that foresight and doing something that a lot of persons don't want to think about, but now actually putting it in practice. And the PCJ is pleased to be partnering with UTech on this particular initiative.
Meanwhile, the Energy Minister says the government is receiving assistance with funding the research initiative, but funding is not unlimited.
Everything must have a deadline. I don't have the actual deadline, but I'm sure we can provide that. Mr. Watson is here from PCJ, the Group General Manager, will be able to give you more insight or detail as to the project, the costing in terms of support, and of course the deadlines, because as you know, it's not an unlimited source of funds, and so as we work with them on this particular initiative, we'll be looking to partner with other stakeholders as well.
For BATV News, I'm Amita Prasad Webb.
Meanwhile, project engineer for biofuels at the Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica, PCJ, Nicanor Reese, says the organization's involvement in the Castor plant has come a long way. He's a guest on BATV's business discussion show On Point, which starts right after news. Nordia Francis Williams reports.
Nicanor Reese says up until now, the PCJ has diligently learned all it can about the Castor plant and its different varieties to arrive at an ideal biodiesel option.
We have progressed significantly since 2009. We have actually decided on a variety that best suits Jamaican condition as it relates to castor cultivation. We had imported about 5 different varieties from China, Brazil, and India. And also we looked at some local varieties to see what the yield would be and how they would perform under local conditions.
He says the PCJ is not doing it alone. Mr. Reese indicated that the corporation has partnered with other agencies to complement the research process.
We partnered with agencies such as the Caribbean Agriculture Research and Development Institute and also the Ministry of Agriculture, both who undertook a lot of this agronomic research for us. So having done that, we took the seeds that we reaped from the different varieties and we actually processed those seeds into the biodiesel fuel. Then having done that, we went to preliminary vehicular trial, which involved actually testing the fuel in a few vehicles.
In the meantime, he says the agreement with the University of Technology to refine a castor fuel formula will bring the project one step closer to completion.
The next stage will involve actually an expanded vehicular trial and expanded processing of the oil. Because what we realized during the preliminary testing that there were some things that required refining and additional research. So we are now planning to partner with the University of Technology, Jamaica, to further expand the research in terms of the volume of fuel that can be produced, in terms of the volume of castor oil that can be processed, and actually expand the vehicular trial to a level that properly represents the diesel population in Jamaica.
For BATV News, I'm Nordia Francis Williams.
Wigton Renewable Energy Training Laboratory is offering a 3-day certification course in wind and hydro systems from July 12 to 14. Wigton says the training is targeted at renewable energy service providers, technicians, energy enthusiasts, educators, students, and persons interested in entering or enhancing their knowledge of the evolving energy industry. Wigton says the training being offered will equip engineers, technicians, installers, and other service providers to develop or enhance their skills to take advantage of the employment and business opportunities that will arise. The course will consist of 4 modules, inclusive of the types and components of turbines used at energy facilities operating in Jamaica, wind turbine installations, hydro simulations, and the assessment of wind and hydro resources. Ongoing Jamaica Public Service Company President and Chief Executive Officer Kelly Tomlin and the National Commercial Bank NCB Group Managing Director Patrick Hilton are the 2016 Jamaica Institute of Management Managers of the Year. Mrs. Tomlin, who was appointed JPS head in 2012, was recognized for her pivotal role in strengthening the utility company's relationship with its stakeholders and improving the entity's overall operational efficiency and customer service. Mr. Hilton, who has been NCB head since 2003, was awarded for notable achievements in areas such as change management, credit and risk administration, organizational restructuring, and human resource development over his 30-year career. He is also the recipient of the Order of Distinction Commander Class National Award for his contribution to the rehabilitation of Jamaica's financial sector. Mrs. Tomlin and Mr. Hilton, who were also appointed Jim Fellows, were presented with their awards by the Institute's President Governor General, His Excellency, the Most Honorable Sir Patrick Allen, during a ceremony at King's House on Tuesday. And stay with us, regional and international stories are next. Welcome back. It's time for regional and international news. We start in Barbados, where the implementation of a 2% levy on foreign exchange transactions will not come into effect on Saturday as previously planned. Here's why.
The Barbados government slightly delays the implementation of the controversial 2% levy on foreign exchange transactions. The tax was scheduled to take effect on July 1st, but in a statement issued on Wednesday, the central bank says it will now be implemented in 2 phases. Phase 1 starts on Monday, July 17. The tax will be applied to cash, bank drafts and wire transfers. Phase 2 will begin on September 1st. The tax will then be applied to transactions using credit, debit and travel cards.
Sterling climbed close to $1.30 today, its highest since before Britain's parliamentary elections, as investors brought forward their expectations for when the Bank of England will begin to tighten monetary policy. Consumer borrowing was up sharply in May, but as David Pollard reports, consumer confidence is down, and there's confusion in the markets over the central bank's guidance.
The tide may be turning, but in a week of policy surprises from central bankers, not all have been bad. At least if you're a Brit heading abroad. The pound is up against foreign currencies on new expectations of a UK rate hike. More power to spend on sea, sun and Savetha, when you might feel like a drink anyway, as the Bank of England moves to restrict lending.
Consumer credit growth has far outpaced that of household income over the past year, with notable increases across credit cards, personal loans and auto finance.
The latest BOE data shows consumer borrowing up 10% over the year. Mortgage approvals also beating forecasts, in contrast to consumer confidence. Amid slowing retail sales, a near 3% inflation rate and stagnant wages, its latest measure shows a 10-month low.
I wouldn't necessarily take the consumer credit figures as a positive sign. I mean, we are in a situation where real incomes in the UK are undoubtedly being squeezed, and you know, much of the consumption therefore is being funded essentially by borrowing.
But the BOE has this week already announced banks will have to shore up capital positions in what economists see as a de facto monetary tightening. Mark Carney's apparently sudden about-face this month, leaving confusion, even anger.
Forward guidance from the Bank of England has been a complete farce. You don't know from one minute to the next whether they're hawkish, dovish. You don't necessarily know which numbers they're actually focusing on. They switch the goalposts whenever it suits them.
Those who see a plan point to upward pressure on the pound, putting downward pressure potentially on consumer prices, and the prospect of cheaper times ahead for Brexit Britain, and not just for those seeking to escape it.
Garbage collectors in Greece have taken their now 10-day-long strike to the rubbish-filled streets, marching to Parliament to demand job security. They fear new legislation banning extensions to short-term contracts could leave them out of work. Kate King reports.
As the rubbish piles up, so too does the pressure on the Greek government. Hundreds of striking garbage collectors and sanitation workers protesting outside Parliament on Thursday, demanding job security.
It's all a big political game that's being played on the backs of workers. It's what always happens, but we don't care about any of that. We just want our jobs, the jobs they promised us.
Refuse collectors fear job losses from new regulations governing short-term contracts. A court order banning extensions could leave up to 10,000 jobs on the line. Offers by the government to give existing contractors precedence in any contract renewals, failing to end the now 10-day-long strike. And as tempers flare and temperatures rise, the rubbish is going nowhere, creating concerns of a health risk.
They should think about what would happen if it was their husbands and children. Would they be saying the same things? We're not fighting for a fancy car or a fancy office. We're fighting for a dustpan and a broom, for a salary to raise our children.
Employment is a sensitive issue in Greece, where 1 in 4 is out of work, as the country wrestles with its 7th year of austerity, a result of debt bailouts. The protesters say if they can't have job security, neither should the Prime Minister.
Swedish fashion chain H&M has beaten quarterly profit forecasts after improving its ability to control costs as it expands across the globe. But as Sonia Legg reports, the world's second biggest fashion retailer said many major markets remain challenging.
There haven't been many ups in recent years for the world's second biggest fashion retailer, so news that Sweden's H&M beat quarterly profit forecasts gave their shares a rare lift. For the past 2 years, they've been on a downward slope. The near 3% boost in morning trade took the year-to-date fall to 17%. Expansion across the globe and better cost controls helped pre-tax profit in the March to May period grow by 10% from a year earlier to more than $900 million. It was far better than analysts expected, but the Swedish giant warned of challenges ahead in many major markets, including China and the US. Low sales and high inventories also meant it had to step up price markdowns, and it's still finding competition from new online retailers like ASOS and Zalando tough. Big IT investments to help it compete have been made, as have moves to speed up the supply chain to get designs to consumers more quickly. That's where larger rival Inditex, owner of Zara, has scored in recent years. It saw an 18% profit rise in the same quarter. H&M's fight back includes a new higher price brand. It's also opening its first stores in Uruguay and Ukraine, and going online in the Philippines, Cyprus and India.
Talking Stocks is after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Time now for Talking Stocks. 41 stocks traded today, of which 9 advanced, 21 declined, and 11 traded firm. The main JSE index declined by 1,856 points to close at over 233,000. The junior index also declined by 31 points to close at 3,165. Over 2 million units traded, valued at more than $29 million on the Jamaican dollar market. And on the US dollar market, more than 211,000 units traded, valued at over $49,000 US dollars. Epley, with over 1 million units changing hands, accounted for 35% of the market volume. Caribbean Producers was second with over 506,000 units trading. Supreme Ventures accounted for more than 450,000 units, amounting to 15% of the market volume, crossing the floor. Berger Paints was the top advancer, up 86 cents to close at $14.85, followed by Consolidated Bakeries up 8 cents to close at $2.70, and Proven Investments up a cent to close at 24 cents. The main decliners were ISP Finance Services, down $4.20 to close at $41.09, followed by 1834 Investments, losing 11 cents to close at $1.35. And Sagicor Real Estate X Fund down 42 cents to close at $11.08. In foreign exchange trading, the US dollar ended the day selling for $128.73 against the Jamaican dollar. The Canadian went for $99.07, while the British pound closed the day at $165.40 on average. And that's the news for this evening, but before we go, a recap of our top story. 2 past presidents of the Incorporated Master Builders Association of Jamaica claim the government is destroying the local construction sector by giving foreigners an unfair advantage. Thanks for watching. For more content, visit our website at batvja.com. I'm Andrew Laidley. Pleasant viewing.